Hey, this will be fun. I have been driving for a really long time, and turns out that's as good a time as any to record some thoughts. As I alluded to in other ones, and I don't know which I'll post first, so that might not even make fucking sense, but I'm really tired, and I'm actually not bound to make a lot of sense, so this will be particularly interesting. It's been on my mind and in my heart to talk about presence. And I'd like to call this the present of being present. Now, I remember many, many moons ago when I went through my first, what I call my first transformation, meaning the first time I actually went down the self-development, awareness, expansion rabbit hole. And basically, it was the first time in my life where I got so fucking sick of my own bullshit that I just knew shit had to change. Now, this is in my mind. Interestingly, that phase with my body had already taken form. I already got sick of being fat, so I addressed that issue, created a new one, but that's a different story for a different day. This was the first time. It was at the end of my first relationship, and boy, there's nothing like heartbreak that can really make you be like, what the fuck just happened? When we broke up, I had one thought and one thought only, which is, I don't want this to jade me. I want to love, and I want to love authentically, and I don't want breaking up with the fact that my fiance, it didn't work out. I'm not going to give details because I don't want to. It didn't work out. And, there was problems on both sides. There always is. But I woke up and realized that there was something fundamentally wrong in me. At least that's how I felt at the time. And I just wanted to be fucking happy. God damn, I just wanted to not be an anxious, miserable, crazy person. So one of the first things I did, at the time I had really long commutes, so I was listening to audiobooks, and I got the audiobook for The Power of Now. And this is basically how it started, right? The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Basically maybe I shouldn't have my personal opinions in here, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his style, but that's neither here nor there. Either way, the book did help me. It helped me a lot. It helped wake me up to the fact that, we live in the present, and our minds get into trouble when it starts casting us into the future or keeping us locked in our past. What I know now, because of the work that I've recently been doing, and what I would like to present, is we have many parts of us, and our brain is but one. So I'd like to take it a little bit deeper. We have our mind, our body, and our spirit. And being present basically means that all three of those things inside of us are together. And that's our opportunity to be wise, to make wise decisions, to live in a whole existence, an integrated existence with our mind, our body, and our spirit. We're checking in with all of those intellectual centers, being like, oh, what the hell should we do? So I think, what's important is not just trying to train our monkey mind to stay in the present, but realizing that the brain is just one piece of us, and we're always gonna kind of run into a little bit of going into the ditch or becoming unbalanced. If all we're doing is listening to our brains, because here's what I hate to tell you guys, and I hate to tell myself, this was a very confronting thing for me to fucking realize, our brains are not that fucking smart. Without the wisdom in our body and in our spirit, and if you don't believe in our spirit, then, well, if you don't believe in a soul or a spirit, then I don't know who the fuck you think is walking around the bag of bones you live in, but that's neither here nor there. Hopefully we'll all give that some thought, eh? Anyway, so this is what I'm presenting. Now, how did I kind of realize this? Well, I was a very anxious person. Growing up, I was a worrier. I had a fucking ulcer when I was a kid from worrying so much. I was constantly thinking about shit that was never gonna fucking happen. And worrying about it. Worrying about if it could happen. This is the world of what ifs. What if this happens? What if I don't get that promotion? What if I can't buy groceries? What if I fall off this cliff and die? What if I drive down the road and get in a car crash? What if the plane I'm on crashes? Fuck, what if I get fired from my job? Blah, blah. What if my partner leaves me? What if I never meet someone? I mean, fuck. Even just going down that small little pathway, I'm backing right the fuck out of there, because that's scary. Like, it's no wonder your brain can't cope and gets all anxious and just throws the toys out of the cot. Like, yeah, that's what happens. But that's our brain. That's our brain fucking taking a trip in the time machine that it created. Now, here's the thing. There's a reason. There's an evolutionary reason why we do that. And it is to prepare ourselves for the worst. It is a survival technique to keep ourselves alive. If we live in this world of what ifs, we are fucking awesome at, like, yes, I tend to be anxious, but I am also super prepared for shit. Which enables me to, to basically mitigate any risks that could pop up in my life. Would you listen to me talk? Jesus Christ, can you tell I'm a coach for operational excellence? Good Lord. Anyway, I love my job. So I don't want people to get super down on themselves for being anxious, because there is an evolutionary reason why it happens, and that is why our brain does it. So what of depression? Well, depression is when we get stuck in our past. The shoulda-dones, coulda-dones, woulda-dones. The woulda-dones is a slippery slope, isn't it? Because that suggests a victim mentality. I would have done that, but so-and-so held me back, blah, blah, blah. We can all think of examples in our own life. It's not a very empowering place to be. And God willing, the one article I really want to write is the difference between a victim mindset versus a survivor mindset versus a thriving mindset. But that's gonna be a beast. Shit, that might be a book. But anywho, what the fuck was I talking about? Depression, yeah. The woulda, coulda, shouldas. And we get so like, oh, if that hadn't happened, then maybe I would have married someone better. Or if I didn't study that in uni, maybe I could have been a doctor. Like, if we dwell on that shit, far out. Yeah, it's depressing. It's super fucking depressing. And that, once again, that's our brain. I think what feels to be the truth is when that happens, it's because something happened where we actually get stuck. Like, emotionally, we're stuck in the past. And it's just as bad. And if you've ever seen Married with Children, you'll laugh. Because, think of Al Bundy. He was fucking addicted to the glory days, right? So it's just as bad if something really, really positive happened to us in the past. Because then we live there. We're emotionally bound to that state and we can't move past it. Like, oh, God, I remember uni, the best years of my life. And everything else by comparison seems to just suck a little. But why is that? Because we're not living life in the present. I'm not in the here and now. I think I touched on it when I wrote about the universal benefits of exercise in that blog post that I wrote. You know, what I noticed when I realized that I was pretty much addicted to fucking exercise, and that's it. Hey, I'm putting my hand up, hand on heart. I firmly believe that an addict is an addict, and I am an addict. I am Summer, and I am an addict. My addiction changes from year to year, from century to century. But for the last 10 years, you know, I've been addicted to exercise. It is how I medicate, self-medicate. It's been healthy, it's been unhealthy, blah, blah, blah. That's another story. But the thing is what I noticed what exercise did for me. I was such a warrior, my mind fucking ran 24/7 at warp speed. I mean, Mach fucking 5, like crazy. And I started running. And I noticed that and believe me, the first time I ran, I wanted to goddamn die after 2 minutes. But I kept at it, and I don't even know why. Probably because I'm a masochist. But I kept at it, and I kept at it. What I noticed was when I ran, I felt this sort of peace. And it was years before I realized that peace of mind that I achieved whilst running was because it was the only time my body was going as fast as my brain was. And that there was something very powerful in matching the state of my body and my mind, where they could be together and in peace, love, and harmony. La la la. Anyway, but we're getting closer, right? Because look, our bodies can only be in the present. You can't take your body back into the past with you, and we can't drag our bodies into the future with us. Our body is grounded in the here and now. And our best chance at peace of mind is keeping it in our body and not letting it run away from us. Another example, I'm driving right now. Now, before I really focused on self-awareness in a truly beneficial and concerted way, I remember, everybody's done this, right? You drive an hour, right? And all of a sudden you're somewhere and you're like, fuck, how did I get here? Because what were you doing while you were driving? What was happening? We're letting our minds run away with us. Our mind is just chewing on a problem or remembering random shit. Like, it's not with our body. It's not watching the road. Otherwise, we would have remembered to some degree how the hell we got from point A to point B. And that's a very, very dangerous place to be, right? Because that's when accidents happen. But that's just a physical example of what can happen anytime. I don't want to call it a danger because that sounds really escalative, but is escalative a word? Fuck, I have no idea. But you get the point. God, I stopped using the word you. These were better when I thought I was talking to myself and I wasn't actually trying to record a podcast, but then I said people's names and yeah, whatever. So the present of the present, what is the benefit? If I could summarize what the benefit is of staying in the present, in the here and now, it's one word, and that word is freedom. Freedom to choose what to do. Freedom to act instead of react. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, that's a complicated fucking story. If we do what we have always done and never question it, then we will get the same result over and over and over and over again. And I write about this in many, many ways, but the story is always the same. We're reacting. We're doing what we've always done. And if we're not happy in our lives, then this is the Groundhog Day of life, right? Oh, I wish things would change. But we keep making the same decisions that we've always made, so we're going to get the same fucking outcome. But we do that because our brain plays on a loop, and once again, it's an evolutionary survivalist tactic. We do what we know is proven to keep us alive, even when it's thoughts that don't necessarily make us happy or bring us peace. That's because we're living within our minds and not our bodies. This is what the pause for the cause is about as well, because when we stop before we make a decision and just feel what's the thought? What's the feeling? What should I do? How should I behave? But we have to be present to achieve that pause. Because if we don't pause and we're just on fucking autopilot, guess what? I'm gonna make the same shitty decision that I have always made. Oh, he gives me attention. I'll go out with him. Never mind how I feel. Never mind the red flags flying up all the time. This is how it happens. This is how we get stuck in patterns that don't serve us, that don't bring us peace or happiness in our lives. How many times has someone said something piss us off and we think, fuck, I'd love to tell them to go to hell and shit in their hat. But we don't. We react. We don't act. We do the same thing that we've always done because it's safe. Because we don't know what's going to happen if we tell that person to go get fucked and stick up for ourselves. The unknown is scary. So our brain purposefully keeps us in a safe zone where we make the same decisions we've always made because they're tried and proven. They might not make us happy, but they keep us safe, and that feels comfortable. So hard to get out of our comfort zones. And we all, I don't have to give anybody any fucking examples of that. My God. We can all think of those situations. Ooh. I'm in Honganui already. Which is why I started this when I started this, because I am trying to keep these succinct. So, freedom. The freedom to choose. The freedom to do what we feel, not just think, but feel is right. It takes courage and a willingness to be bold and to do something different, to act and not react. But if we want a situation to change, we need to act. If we react, we're gonna get more of the same. It's fucking Groundhog Day. So, what could we do? What could we do? What is the power of now? How can we keep ourselves present? To be honest, I think I've practiced for so long that I forgot how I did it. But it's small things. If we want to help each other out, we can use each other's names in conversation, because that's a natural social cue to pay attention, to stay present. I know some people that snap. If they notice themselves thinking a certain thing or feeling a certain thing, they'll snap a Band-Aid on their wrist to bring them back to the present, to pull their mind out of wherever it is. Honestly, what I do now to stay present is I stare at trees. I just admire the beauty around me. And that might be part of the reason why I moved to New Zealand. It's so much easier because there is beauty everywhere I look here. Listen to the birds. Listen Just get amongst it and become part of what's going on. And if that sounds too fucking hippy-dippy for you, turn up the radio, sing to the radio. That'll keep you present. Go for a walk, run. Just try different things. I don't know. Google how to stay present. I'm sure there's heaps of shit. All this stuff's just coming from me. I don't actually do any research because I'm probably too conceited. It probably shouldn't be as funny as I think it is. But anyway, present of the presence and how to stay present. I would suggest, if it's your cup of tea, read or listen to The Power of Now. There is a place in the audiobook that makes me laugh horrifically. I'm not even sure it's supposed to be funny, but I honestly laugh my ass off every time I hear it, because there's this section where the chick is like saying how she's unhappy with her family and she knows that she should love her kids, but something just seems to be missing, and she asks if there's something wrong with her, and good old Eckhart Tolle says, "You're human. Of course there's something wrong with you." Fuck, that made me laugh. I don't think it's that easy. Being human is not easy. Waking up, being aware is not easy. If it was easy, then everybody would already be in that state of being, but we're not. So these are the things that bring us closer to being free and being able to choose, and just being free to be ourselves and knowing what that is. It's not easy. So don't let anybody tell you that it is. But there is nothing wrong with us. We're just humans trying to do the best we can. And that, in and of itself, is a beautiful thing. Ta. So it's always smart to go back and listen to what you record, especially if you're trying to get to a point. And I famously don't write shit down and just kind of wing it. So 2 things that I'd like to add. 1, I didn't do a great job of closing the loop on how being present helps anxiety. Look, we can think of all those what if scenarios, but in the present, they're not happening. It's not real. When we stay present, we're able to just deal with the problem in front of us. Like, is the plane crashing? No, it's not. So, great. Life is gravy. There's a definite balance of being prepared to mitigate risks that are pretty much imminent or inevitable, but then creating these horrible situations, for better or worse, that aren't going to happen. But staying present and asking our body, like, hey, what do you think's... The brain knows what it thinks is going on, but what does the body think is going on? What do I see? What do I hear? What do I taste? What do I smell? What do I feel? What do I touch? It's a beautiful thing. Being in the body, being in touch with our senses, will keep us present and able to deal with what is in front of us and what is in front of us only. Not in the past or worrying about shit that could happen in the future. Number 2, I missed the most important way to stay present. Something so obvious that I'd like to think that that's why I missed it, but I probably just had my head shoved up my ass. I've had a cup of coffee, by the way, so I'm a little more awake, and I tell you what, I can see Naki. I can see my manga all the way from Wanganui. It is pure magic. She is on fine force and looking marvelous, I might add. Anyway, I digress. As always. Breathe. Just breathe. Just be aware of our breath. Yoga, meditation, What do these techniques teach us to do? Breathe. It's that simple. If you catch yourself worrying, or if you catch yourself being sad, and I do apologize because I don't know depression very well. I've not been a depressed person. People typically tend towards anxiety or depression or rage. I am definitely more anxious than anything else, so I do apologize for those people who might be struggling with rage or depression. Definitely reach out to some resources. The same guy that wrote the Anxiety and Phobia workbook also wrote books on depression, so that's probably a good resource. Anyway, there's heaps out there. Depression is not my forte, so I do apologize if that side of my argument is a little bit deficient. But just fucking breathe. Ask yourself, am I breathing? Like, am I actually breathing properly? Or am I breathing rapidly from my chest? Or am I taking, really, really long inhales, but my exhales really fast? Like, just notice, just pay attention to our breath, and that will be a good clue of what we might be experiencing. And just focusing on our breath will help ground us into our body. I tell you what, I was terrified of fucking flying for a real long time, and whoo boy, there was some flights that were particularly bumpy where I was breathing like a woman in labor. I was afraid. I wasn't in physical pain, but I was in mental pain with fear. It's real. These things are real. This is what happens. But anyway, that's all I wanted to add. Hope you find it helpful.